Good evening, Landmark ladies. Thank you. Thanks for coming out on the corner of 8th and West tonight in Ocean City, New Jersey. And a shout out to everyone who's watching us live on Facebook, on our YouTube page. Whether you're watching us live or later on, we welcome you. We're so thankful that you're here with us tonight. We have a few announcements to make. You might want to make a sandwich. I have a few of them. So we're going to start off tonight with our women's pink envelopes. If you do not know about the pink envelopes, it's a missionary ministry opportunity that we have here. And I happen to receive a request today. And when you give, you might not be prepared tonight, but this is always ongoing. It's a particular family of 4 that we're reaching out, want to walk alongside and love them in this season. We're looking for Wawa gift cards, Acme, and ShopRite. So that is our first announcement. The second one is, it's that time of the year again. So we're going to be meeting Saturday out in the lobby for women in service. And we have a sister in our church here who is a police captain, the first one in her department. So we're having her here on Saturday to sharpen our skills for holiday self-awareness and holiday everyday safety. So we're going to welcome Sherry on Saturday morning. And another thing that we want to update you on is that we're rebranding our women's ministry. We have our Christmas brunch that is coming up. So it's a lot we're throwing at you. If you have not saved the date, if you haven't received one, we have them out in the lobby. You can see it on your app. You can see it on the website. We're happy to help you register because the seats fly. We're actually leaving the island and going to a larger place because we've had a waiting list for 2 years, which is not a bad thing to have. If you have any questions about that, it's a Christmas lunch and shopping experience with a beautiful time of worship, a wonderful speaker, and our theme this year is Anchored into Christmas. After all, it is the best gift ever. So with our rebrand, you indicated on this survey that you no longer want to meet on Saturday. So this Saturday will be the last time that we have a women in service in the lobby because you asked for it and you're going to get it. We're going to be here on Thursday nights as we are tonight. So you'll have one women's ministry per month, and we hope to bless you and encourage you and educate you that you grow closer and stronger to the Lord and to one another. So we really fascinating things happening in January. We're going to have a happy, healthy, and brand new you health forum in January with health professionals there, Q&A. It's going to be a great time. And even though we've indicated it's the first Thursday of every month, due to the holiday, it will be the second Thursday, just that one time. I don't want to confuse you. It will be Thursday, January 9th, and we'll be in here from 6 to 8:30 to kick off the new year. And as we go on, you can stay tuned. There'll be all sorts of information in the church, what exactly we're doing for you. And if you have any questions, you can see anyone with a lanyard in the room. And we hope that you're ready for it. Stay tuned. We have one more outing. We're already looking at 2025. We want to stir up some excitement. We're going to Hershey, Pennsylvania for a large, enormous women's conference. At the Hershey Center, we'll even have Chris Tomlin as one of our music worship leaders. It's going to be phenomenal. We'll be leaving Ocean City for a Friday trip to Hershey, Pennsylvania, maybe do some shopping and have lunch, go to an afternoon and evening session, and an all-day Saturday session. So there's more information to come with our women's ministry panel. Please stay tuned and pray about all these events. I have envelopes if you'd like them. I know we're going to have an incredible time tonight, so will you please welcome Lainey Allegretto.
It's really bright up here. Can barely see you guys. I am Lainey. I'm not Shanna, but I am going to introduce Shanna to you guys, who's our speaker tonight. So Shanna is, she's my really great close friend now, but I actually met Shanna through her sister Shelby. I was roommates with her sister in college, played field hockey with her, and Shanna was there, and I think I met her and maybe knew her, but we weren't really close. And then Shelby decided to move to Texas to be a full-time missionary. So I got stuck with Shanna. But it's been an amazing, I don't know how long it's been, maybe a couple of years since we've gotten to know each other a lot deeper and closer and spend more time together without Shelby there. Still love Shelby. She's watching right now. Hi, Shelby. But I love Shanna because she'll do pretty much anything with me. We've run away from coyotes together. We'll sleep on my front porch. About 6 months ago, when she couldn't drive, she'll tell you why, I went to pick her up, and she had to endure my driving from her house to my house, which she was not too thrilled about, but she'll still do it. She'll get in the car with me. But on a more serious note, you guys probably can all think of a person in your life that they're just different than most people. You don't always maybe see them or talk to them all the time or every day, but you know when you do see them, you just pick up right where you left off. Shanna has a heart that just loves the Lord with everything in her. And she doesn't do anything without hearing from him first. She doesn't move without praying. She slows me down a lot because I can just get off and go. And she's always like, wait, we got to pray about that. I'm like, you're right. So she's a great reminder to me of that. And she loves to, when she's coming to my house, she would send me this text, and she'd be like, I'm on my way, Philemon 1:22. And she would always send that. I'm like, okay, like whatever, she's on her way. So one time I looked it up, and Philemon 1:22 says, prepare a guest room for me because I'm coming. So now I know to prepare the room, even if it's the front porch. So Shanna, come on up here. I want to pray for you. Shanna Scott. It's really bright. I'm going to pray for you. Okay. God, we just thank you for tonight. We thank you for the women that are here, gathered to worship, to hear testimony, and to pray. And right now, I just lift up Shanna, God. I pray you go before her, you speak through her. Would you use her story to touch our hearts, God? Would each of us be able to take something that's not Shanna's word, but your word, God, speaking through her, and apply it to ourselves, God? Would it encourage us, uplift us, edify us? Would you just be with us tonight and be with Shanna? In Jesus' name, amen.
Hello. Hi. My name's Shanna. Is this on? No. No? Is it on now? No. Okay. Can you hear me now? Oh, jeez. What about now? Lady. Wait, it's working. Never mind. All right. You can go ahead and start the first slide. My name's Shanna Scott, and before I start, I would just like to pray over all of you and just lift this time up to the Lord. So, Lord, I thank you for this opportunity, God, and I ask specifically that you just speak through me, Lord, that it's nothing that I can say or do, but it's everything that you can do, God. And just take what I have to say, Lord, and use it however you want to use it, Lord. And I come into agreement with what you want to do tonight, God. And I just thank you for your hand on my life and what you've done in my life, Lord. And I thank you for also that eagle I saw on my way here. That just made my day, and you know that that is important to me. So thank you. Thank you that you're a personal God and that you want relationship with each of us. Pray over everyone here tonight, Lord, that their hearts are open, God, and that they hear however you're nudging them, Lord. In your name I pray, amen. So I am, as I said, my name's Shanna Scott. I am the oldest of three. I'm the oldest of three. Thank you. I have a brother. He's in the middle. His name's Shane. He lives in Delaware with his wife. And my youngest sister, as Lainey mentioned, lives in Texas. She's a full-time missionary there. And we all grew up in Salem County, which is about an hour and 20 minutes that way. So along the Delaware, to give you better context. I am currently a post-secondary teacher, which means I teach kids in special education from 18 to 21. So we focus a lot on life skills and like building a resume, social skills, things like that. I have a great class. I have 5 kids. One of my kids was absent this day. And I'm also a high school field hockey coach. So I go right from teaching to coaching field hockey. The Lord gives me the strength to get through the day. But so we actually had our last game yesterday. Playoffs started the 4th. We won the 4th, and then I guess that would be quarterfinals was yesterday, and we lost. So now the season's over. And those are my assistants in the right picture. So I grew up knowing the Lord. That cliche, knew the Lord in my mind, but I'd never really pursued a relationship with him. I had a great high school experience. I'm a very driven individual. I hold myself to a high standard. When I do things, I want to do them well. So I excelled in sports, I excelled in academics, and I had this dream that I wanted to be a nurse. Like, since I was in 8th grade, I wanted to do nursing. I had put all my eggs in this basket of nursing. I don't know why, I just got this thing in 8th grade. I'm like, I want to be a nurse. I'm going to be a nurse. And I was just driven to be a nurse. So in high school, I had a pretty good head on my shoulders. I had a good group of friends. I had boundaries. I knew what was right. I knew what was wrong. And I had a strong conviction for things. After graduating high school, I then entered into a nursing program that was like an accelerated 2-year program, and I ended up failing out of the program. And that kind of that set me into a spiral, because I had built everything around this career, and it almost became my identity. And now that I am not going to be a nurse, it was kind of devastating, and I didn't really know what to do. So I kind of just didn't care anymore, and I just did whatever I wanted. So I transferred to Rowan University and didn't really know what I was doing, was kind of majoring in liberal arts, and at the same time just hanging around people, doing things that I should not have been doing, just living very worldly. And I just got caught up in that, and I felt very trapped in that, and it was very hard for me to get out of, and I became very comfortable with the lifestyle that I was living, and I had lost that conviction. I was very numb to just the things that I was doing and the people that I was around, and it wasn't until my sister actually was living away at college, met Lainey. Lainey invited her to church, and I wasn't really into it, and she told me about it, and I'm like my family at the time, none of us were attending church, and Shelby had started pursuing the Lord a little bit more diligently, and started attending church here, told me about it. I listened a few times, and it was interesting, but at the same time, I still felt stuck, almost like hooks were in me, I couldn't get out of what I was in, and it wasn't until COVID hit where everything kind of came to a stop. My brother and sister actually were doing secret Bible studies without me, and I felt left out, so I started asking questions. I was like, hey, what you guys doing? And they're like, you wouldn't like it anyway. And I'm like, you're right. But I started asking them questions, and the Lord used them as a way to draw me in and get my attention. And I remember a significant moment with the Lord. I started changing little things, what I was listening to, what I was watching, and those things made a bigger impact than I had thought at the time. And I remember a significant moment. I was working out in our basement, and the Lord, that song came on my music playlist, and it just broke me. And I remember literally melting. It felt like I was melting. I fell to my knees, and in a split second, every sin, everything that I was involved in, just flashed through my mind and through my memory, and I just I started then pouring my heart out to the Lord, And I'm like, Lord, I'm sorry for going there and doing that and for doing this and for lying about that. And I started asking him for forgiveness. And these were things that were just, it just like was just pouring out of me. And from that point, I would say there was a significant transformation in my life as far as my pursuit for the Lord. I then started pursuing the Lord more diligently, and that wasn't something that was easy. Like I would one minute or one day, like, I would be really good and like understand the Bible and like I felt good. And then the next day I was like, I don't feel like it, but over the course of a couple years now, my relationship really grew with the Lord. And in April of 2021, I rededicated my life to the Lord. There was an altar call here. I rededicated my life to the Lord, and in September of 2021, I was baptized. And since then, it's been amazing. It's been so good, and I've been so compelled to just share with people what the Lord has done in my life, because I knew there was a point in my life where I didn't really understand the Bible. I knew the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but it wasn't transforming my life. It wasn't transforming my heart. And I kind of lost hope in that. But it is possible to know God here on earth. And if we know him in those little moments, like each of you can say that you've had different experiences with the Lord. And if we know him, if we can know him here on earth, I can't even imagine what heaven is going to be like for eternity. Just little glimpses of him, in sunsets and when children laugh, little things that bring us joy. And it's just so mind-blowing to me, and it's just amazing. It's beautiful. But anyway, you can go to the next slide. So this is my brother's wedding. This was September of last year. Around this time, I was experiencing some headaches, and I didn't really think anything of it. I thought it was just me developing these migraines. I know that's something people get, but I had never had migraines. I had never broken a bone. I had never got an MRI, got a CAT scan. I would say growing up, we were rough, as siblings, but we didn't really have any health concerns. I had never been casted for anything. But around this time, I was experiencing these headaches, and this was occurring over the course of a couple months, and it was getting worse as days went on. And then eventually it got to a point where I started losing it started getting blurry, and my hearing started, it sounded like cotton was in my ears. And at that point, I made an appointment to go to the doctor because my mom made me. And I went to my primary, and my primary was like, we'll get you checked out. I have a great primary doctor. And he was like, we'll get you checked out, get a CAT scan, and even a neck x-ray to see if anything's pinched or whatever. So I got I got a CAT scan November 30th of last year. You can go to the next slide. And I went into this CAT scan just, there. My mom sent me a grocery list after. I was going to go to the grocery store after. I didn't really think anything of it. And after I got my CAT scan, I was there about an hour and a half. The lady calls me back, and I could just see the look in her face. She called me back and privately, and she was like, we need you to go to the emergency room right now. And I was like, I don't even know where that is. Where is the closest emergency room to where I'm at right now? And I'm all these questions, I would say that's when I initially had an initial panic. Oh my gosh, what do you mean? Why? And they couldn't give me any more information than you just need to go to the emergency room right now. I was like, okay, do they know that I'm coming? What do I tell them when I get there? So I go to the emergency room, I call my mom on my way there, and both my parents meet me there, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then they admit me in the emergency room, and I'm waiting and waiting. I still know nothing. I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and they wanted me to get an MRI to get more of an extensive imaging of my head. And in that process, my primary doctor was contacted by, I guess, the Inspira where I got my CAT scan, and they had like talked to him about what the results were. I still didn't know what they were. I got the MRI at the emergency room, and then my primary doctor gets a hold of me, and he is talking about me getting transferred to Penn immediately. And I'm like, I still don't even know what's going on. And he's like, you need to go to Penn, like, right now. So then the doctor, like, eventually comes in and tells me that they found a tumor in my right frontal lobe that was causing all of these symptoms, and it needed to be removed, basically. So that night, I was transferred to Penn, and then I had gotten another MRI there to just confirm everything. And then later on that night into Friday, the 1st, the doctor came in and sat me down and talked about basically like the process of how we were going to move forward with removing this tumor. And then they scheduled a consultation. I had to go in on the 4th, back to Penn. Everything was through Penn. I had to go in for a consultation on the 4th, and then they scheduled my surgery like a week later on the 8th. So within that, the 4th to the 8th, like something so supernatural happened. I had a peace that truly surpassed all understanding. And like all the anxiety that I felt, all the questions I had, it's like it went away. And I was just reading the Word. I went right to the Word. I was just reading, and just, I knew that I had to feed myself with truth, because it's a spiritual warfare. We know this. And if I sit too long without the truth, I'm going to start thinking thoughts that aren't true. And the Lord really just poured in through people from the church, people at my work who know where I stand in my faith, who are saying that they're praying for me, and I didn't even know they were praying. Like, they were praying people and just showing me love and sending me scripture. And it was just an overwhelming, like, amount of love that I had just felt from the Lord, and just so supported. And a few verses that I have held on to throughout that time. You can go to the next slide. So throughout this time, since I started my walk with the Lord, I started journaling. I like to write. That's something I really enjoy doing. And if I'm getting if whatever I'm feeling emotionally, I'll draw a picture or a verse that I get or something that's on my heart. I'll just journal it down. So you can go to the next slide. These are a couple verses that I really clung to during this period before my surgery. Jeremiah 29:11-14. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will hear you. You will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. I will be found by you, declares the Lord, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and all the places where I have driven you, declares the Lord, and I will bring you back to the place from which I sent you into exile. You can go to the next slide. And 2 Corinthians 4:18. So we do not lose heart. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal. It says in the Psalms that life is all but a breath, a vapor. And on average, we live to 75, 80 compared to eternity. We're here for just a blink of an eye. And once that becomes, in my opinion, more of a reality, I think it helps redefine our purpose of why we were even created. And to just look to not to the things that are around us, because things around us look good, they look great, and we want it in that moment, but having that focus of to him, and to not look left or look right. And that's hard to do. It's not easy. You can go ahead to the next slide. So something that the Lord really put on my heart specifically for tonight was to share some of my journal entries, which I was kind of reluctant to do because some of them are really just totally a mess, up and down, but I wanted to express the raw emotion of our humanity. And I'm sure many of you can relate to the highs and lows of the Psalms, and just the reality that we feel things. We get angry, we get upset, and we're emotional at times, and then we're happy. And the next few months after my surgery were very challenging, and a lot was happening. My body was weak, and I was recovering from the physical trauma of what had even happened. I'm trying to process what is even happening. I was waiting for results of the tumor because they had to take it and test it to see if it was cancerous, to see if I would need treatment. So there's a lot of waiting, a lot of unknowns, which I don't like unknowns. I like to have the plan, and unknowns, I go into a spiral with unknowns. But the Lord really pumped the brakes with everything and was just trust me. At the same time, the doctor also wanted me to go through fertility because potentially if I needed treatment, he thought it would be a good idea to go through fertility. So that was another thing that I had to think about, because I'm not even in a relationship right now, and I'm long term, where I'm not thinking long term, I'm trying to get to what the results are. Let's just take one step at a time. And leading up to the extraction of my eggs throughout the fertility process, I had actually had a seizure, so I could no longer drive. And and then I got the results for my tumor, and it ended up being cancerous. So I had to go through 6 weeks of radiation, 5 days a week, and 6 weeks of chemotherapy, which was every day. And I felt like everything was being taken from me. I was trying to make sense of everything, and then that's when all these questions and doubts and my spiral kind of started to happen. And a journal entry during this time was, I trust you when I don't understand. I trust you when I don't know. I trust you in my confusion. I trust you in my sadness. I trust you in my heaviness. I trust you in my doubt. I trust you when I have no hope. I trust you in my overthinking. I trust you when I don't know why things happen the way they happen. And I will trust you when it makes no sense. I knew that I needed to, again, just go back to his word and declare these things over me and speak these things to myself and back to the Lord, and just expressing that to the Lord, look, Lord, I'm struggling, but I trust you. I don't understand, but I trust you. And I know that you have plans to give me a hope and a future. And I don't know what that looks like, but I'm trusting you. I'm choosing to trust you. And I knew that, and it almost was kind of frustrating because I couldn't walk away from what he had done in my heart up until this point. And it was almost frustrating because deep down, I'm I really want to throw in the flag, I want to give up, but I couldn't. I couldn't turn away from what his word says and from what his will was for my life, even if I didn't know what it was. And I just couldn't. You can go to the next slide. It says in Isaiah 50, verse 10, "Who among you fears the Lord? Who obeys the voice of his servant? Who walks in darkness and has no light? Let him trust in the name of the Lord and rely upon his God." So not only me in this season of my life, but I'm sure many of you can say that it's felt dark at times, and it's felt cold and it's felt heavy, and you might not feel him, you might not see him there, and you might think that he's left you. You might feel abandoned. You might feel this way or that way. But sometimes when we don't feel him and we don't see him, all we have to trust in is his word and what his word says that he is, and his character and his nature. And sometimes that's all we have to just go back to. And thank God that we have that. You can go to the next slide. So I actually wrote this throughout the following months of everything. As I sit here and cry, I ask myself why. I wait patiently for a response, but all I have are these 150 Psalms. Could it be through these pages I finally see you do speak to me? Your truth I cling to. Lately all I wish is to just be with you. But when the cares of my heart are many, I find your love is plenty. Are you enough? When times are tough and the water's rough, Lord, I ask, I plead, please make your love enough. My soul is cheered by your consolations. There is no obligation, only liberation for this current situation. A firm foundation. It doesn't make sense. There's no explanation. Separation is no more. All I need is your grace. That's where salvation takes place. I am forever grateful for you. I will forever be moved. And then this was another journal entry that I had during this time. Lord, I fear. Lord, I feel restless. Lord, 1 month ago I prayed you would move my mountain and trusted you would. I knew you could if you wanted to, but here I am. I can't drive. It's no longer a low-grade tumor, but a more aggressive grade 4 tumor. I feel weak. I feel like I can't do anything. And during this time, sometimes I didn't even have words. I just cried for hours, and I felt so helpless, but I knew that he was there sitting with me. Despite how I was feeling, I chose and I choose to cling to what his word says. And throughout life, we can't, his intention isn't for me to have cancer. His intention and his heart for me isn't for people to go through the things that we experience here on earth. He intended for man and woman to live in communion, in relationship with him. But unfortunately, this is where we're at. We live in a sinful world because man chose something apart from what he originally intended. And as a result, this is what we now have. And it breaks his heart just as much as it breaks ours. And he's with us through all of that. You can go ahead to the next slide. Psalm 27, 3-5 says, though an army encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war rise up against me, yet I will be confident. One thing that I ask of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For he will hide me in the shelter in the day of trouble. He will conceal me under the cover of his tent. He will lift me high upon a rock. Matthew 22, 36-40 says, Lord, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. Then the second is, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And what I was beginning to realize at this point, along with this verse, was that I had lost sight of this. I had placed everything the Lord gave me, even though it was good, the serving, the going, the wanting to go on missions trips, the driving to here and doing all of those things. I was placing all of that before my relationship with him. And that can even happen. And it's amazing how we can get so caught up in these things, even though they're good things. And the Lord brought me back to a place where I knew that the whole reason for my existence is to worship him. That's the whole reason why we're created, to know him, to have relationship with him, and to worship him. And I had lost sight of that in the midst of all this going and doing and serving. And it's easy to do. And I can't imagine how much harder it is even in ministry, because it's a fine line. And especially like with my job too, I can very easily place teaching and, Lord, I'm a teacher. I'm being an example for you. And I can place that before my relationship with him, which is what ultimately is most important. You can go ahead to the next slide. So he brought me back to that place. Here are some pictures of just my time throughout radiation and my chemo. I'd met some great people. Penn was great. They took great care of me. I even got to share the gospel with a few people, which was amazing. And Shelby was able to come home and visit me, and I had great support from a lot of people here and just my family overall. I finished my phase 1, quote unquote, which was the 6 weeks of radiation and chemotherapy. I finished that in March the 14th of this year. And then phase 2, I had to go through, which consisted of 6 more months of chemo, but it wasn't every day. It was a higher dose, 5 days a month. So it was like 6 rounds. And I finished that in September. So I am now finished all of my treatment, and I still don't really know like what the future holds. There's still unknowns, but I have to get checkups every 1 to 2 months. The doctor wants me to just make sure everything's being monitored. And but I am confident that I will not have to go through this again, and I trust the Lord regardless of whatever happens. You can go to the next slide. Here are some pictures of this past summer. In the midst of treatment, I was still able to travel. It's amazing how everything fell, like blood work, appointments, everything fell in a gap where I was home. So I could still go and do my traveling. And I was able to go to Texas with Lainey and Shelby. And the bottom right is my cousin's baby's first birthday. The top one, that's Kathleen, my brother's wife. That was at a bridal shower for my other cousin. My mom and I went to the Ark in Kentucky, which was amazing. I totally recommend it. And then you can go to the next slide. Oh, the last one's not on there. But there's a quote by Charles Spurgeon. It says, "I've learned to kiss the waves that throw me up against the rock of ages." Throw me up against the rock of ages, by Charles Spurgeon. So I just want to encourage you guys that whatever it is you're going through, I mean, 1, you're not alone, and 2, the Lord is allowing it for a reason. And I know it's much easier said than done, but in order to go through, or in order to learn what he wants to reveal to us, which he ultimately wants to take us deeper into himself, we have to go through hard things. I compare it to a left-handed layup. Like, doing a left-handed layup, I don't know if any of you are left-handed, but my left-handed layup looks awful. And it looks messy, and it's going to look messy going through it, but eventually, the more and more you do it, you get better at it. So, thank you guys for listening. If anybody has questions or wants to talk after, I'm open to that. So I think I went well over my time. Sorry. Thanks.
Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Okay. I'll just talk really. Oh, no, it's on. Okay. I won't talk really loud. I'll talk into the microphone. Thank you, Shanna. I'm sure you guys all took a nugget from that, but something jumped out to me was when she's talking about God's heart and his intention was never for sin, but that was our choice apart from him. So now we get to enter into a time where we get to intercede and cry out to God and ask him for his heart in the midst of our sinful state.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to enter into our time of prayer. That's what we're here for, to rise up, to pray, to cry out as women of God. So we have some prayer leaders with lanyards on around their neck. If you are a leader, could you just put your hand up for a second so people can see you? So we're going to have you guys, we're going to ask you to get into groups of at least 3, no more than 5 people, and pray with each other. And we want you guys to use this time to really pray. We know you like to talk and catch up, and that's great, and you should share your names with each other and get to know each other. But really use this time to pray, and we can fellowship afterwards for a little bit. So you guys can get into those groups now. And I also just wanted to give you a brief update. Kelly Hudak was texting me. I'm not sure who's been aware, who's not, but their daughter Mary has had some complications with a procedure earlier in the week. And she just texted me a little update. She's still there, in a lot of pain, and she's doing okay, but Kelly's about to leave for the night. And Mary obviously doesn't like when her mom has to leave. So if you guys could just, in your groups, lift up a prayer for Mary and be praying for her as well. So you guys can do that now. You can move your seats if you want, or just get amongst each other, whatever's comfortable for you guys to pray. So, and then we will come up at the end, and Beth will say a prayer for the nation.